Hello, folks. It's been a long weekend. Welcome to a new episode of Psicoactivo. I hope everybody had a great last few days. As I told you in the last video, I was out on a wedding. My cousin got married, and I had a lot of family in, so it was really relaxing to spend time with them and have fun. But I'm back in action. There was something over the weekend that gave me a lot of to think about before coming to make my video for today. You guys know how Terrence Howard kind of broke the internet and made a lot of scientists from the mainstream really angry. It was kind of weird watching one of my favorite authors, Bernardo Castro, come out against what Terrence Howard was saying. And I'm not saying that Terrence Howard is right. I mean, the man does have 97 patents, but having a patent doesn't prove anything, really. The patent he did on VR, that did prove something. That was a patent he created, and a patent where he was cited multiple times by some of the biggest corporations in the world. And as a result, he didn't get a penny. That's one patent that does prove that he at least knows some of what he's talking about, right? But the stuff he talked about, the Maya culture, the Maya civilization, well, he basically dissed them because he said that the zero is not really worth our time, the number zero, and the Mayas created it. So that whole podcast, for me, it was like essentially his diss track against the Maya civilization. But in all seriousness, I saw people like Eric Weinstein, who's a mathematician. I saw Brian Keaton, who is he's an astronomer. I saw Kastrup. I saw some other people from the scientific community really come strongly against what Terrence Howard is saying. Because if what Terrence Howard said is correct or true, let's say true, yes, he may have discovered a new form of propulsion and an entirely different way of how we regard physics. I've been talking to some people in my community, and some of them say that Terrence is on the right track, but he's not there yet. Which means that maybe he's like a step or two behind these people that I'm talking about. But yeah, they say that he does have some interesting parts of his theories that are very compelling. That linchpin creation, that new propulsion creation, that was pretty cool, if you ask me. But my issue here is with the scientific community at large and how they have monopolized the information. So whenever any new idea comes along, there's always pushback from these established academic circles. And that can't happen. That's not the way we advance as a society and advance as a civilization. And it really troubles me when I see people who are widely regarded scientists in the international stage coming out against new ideas. Where is their scientific curiosity, I wonder? Isn't that the foundation of how the scientific method should be applied? You find new evidence, you put it through the test of the scientific method, you corroborate it with other groups multiple times, and if the same result comes out, that's the truth. That's the established truth based on science fact. And the fact that people don't even want to entertain Terrence Howard's ideas. That's troubling to me. Because here lies the essence of the problem that we have endured for so many decades in so many areas. I'm not only talking about the UFO topic, I'm talking about everything, paleontology, biology, history, um, you name it. Like, there are many alternative stories of all the disciplines that have always been rejected by the mainstream scientific community. And it's because they are opposed to the ideas that are already established. And I know, I get it. There's a lot of people that dedicated their lives to a specific endeavor in science. And then a different idea comes along years, maybe decades later, and it completely opposes what these people dedicated their entire lives around. I understand the reticence, I understand the anger from some scientists, but to go ahead and use ad hominems to discredit someone who's trying to put forward new ideas, that's what I really don't get. Why? What are you afraid of? I'm specifically talking about some of the people that I mentioned before. One of them is really like after Terrence Howard and saying that he shouldn't be paid attention to. Why not? What gives you the right to say someone deserves or doesn't deserve to be paid attention to? I don't get it. It makes no sense. And this is where we come to one of the scientists who keeps um, trying to ask other scientists to get on board with the scientific method in the UAP topic. I'm talking, of course, about Dr. Garry Nolan. Recently, I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday, Andy from That UFO podcast had him on the show. It was a really cool show. They spoke about a lot of things that the doctor needed to address because there had been a long time since he hadn't spoken about the process that he's been involved with for a while. And they asked him about Soul Foundation. They asked him about AARO. They asked him about. He revealed something about some secret, not secret, but a meeting of academics um, where an AARO officer was invited to, and that was really interesting to me. What is an AARO officer doing at a UFO talk in DC? Dr. Nolan says that they are trying to clean their image after what Sean Kirkpatrick did once he left, this media tour he took, and all the discredit he gave to all the people involved in the disclosure process. And there was this part. First, I'm going to play this video that talks about this meeting and how science should be investigated. Here it is.
I mean, not that it was directly due to us, but the National Science Foundation sponsored a group of academics last week in Washington, D.C. That Peter attended and a number of others in the general community attended. But it was academics who I don't even know, several of them, who were convening a meeting to talk about how is it that we get the NSF to fund these kinds of things. And this was sponsored by the NSF to come up with approaches for funding inquiry into the matter. Not to make a claim about what things are, but to say, well, what is the data that exists and how do we bring other data? And interestingly, as I understand it, two members of AARO were there, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, and two people from the ODNI were there to watch, gather information, perhaps provide. And one of the feedbacks that I got about the AARO group was that they want to try to make right what they even saw themselves as a huge PR mistake for the efforts or what went on with the release of the AARO report. So I still don't, I mean, I'm just going to be honest to the people at AARO, I don't trust you yet. You have quite a bit to do to basically prove to me that you're not just a disinformation or a flypaper operation. Prove to me. I mean, I held my tongue for 2 years or so after AARO came out, and you've only so far proven that you're not capable of being, let's say, a neutral player in this. So do better.
I don't think that's an unfair position to come from, distrust, especially in this topic, and look for them to prove. And I'm sure that works both ways, which you'd be more than willing to do the way you talk about the subject. But do you think AARO has any intention as an entity of helping rather than hindering the UFO topic?
Well, I mean, they claim that they're just there to resolve stories, which is fine. Nobody's asking them to take a position and say to be the mouthpiece for whether or not NHI are real or not. But what I do expect them to do is, if their claim is to apply scientific approaches and the rules of science to the matter, that means if you come to a conclusion, you have to release the data. And you have to release the methods by which the conclusions are come to. To do it otherwise is just basically breaking all the rules of how science is done. I mean, I don't publish a paper that just says the conclusion. I give an introduction, I give the data, I give the methods by which I analyze the data, and how it is that the data led to, let's say, a conclusion, if a conclusion is merited. They've done none of this. So until they do, pronouncing that they've solved problems is, and then giving me no reason as to how it is that they did it, is just completely in abeyance of the rules of how science are done. So don't claim you're doing science if you're not doing science.
Then it was another part of the video that I didn't clip. There's no clip for that. But Dr. Nolan, he's sassy sometimes. I could say he's sassy. He snaps at you. He doesn't care. I mean, he's one of the leading immunologists in the world, so he has the right. He can say whatever he wants. If he disagrees with someone, he's gonna say it. He doesn't give a fuck. I'm sorry. But yeah, there's this the UFO Joe Murgia. He does a lot of transcriptions that are really cool, because there's people who love to read, and he does a lot of great work transcribing long videos. And this is a part of a part of the interview he did with Andy from That UFO podcast. Dr. Nolan specifically addresses ignorant and scientist people who are opposed to new ideas. The same topic that I'm talking about right now. This is what he said. He said, Nolan talking to other ignorant scientists. He says, you're ignorant and you're making an ignorant statement. Anybody who says there's no data, there's no evidence, is just a fool. I mean, you have not spent a moment looking at the data, the historical record, and if you're not willing to spend some reasonable amount of time doing so, and I can give you a list of places you can look, then you're not part of the conversation. You're displaying ignorance, pure and unadulterated ignorance. And that's what I tell the other scientists in front of groups. And they just look at me like, how dare you call me ignorant? Well, you're ignorant and you're making an ignorant statement. So when you're ready, come back to me and we'll have a discussion. But until then, I am not here to be your mentor or your tutor. That's what Dr. Nolan said. And he makes a great point, because imagine, he's one of the most followed people in the topic. He's one of the most informed people in the topic, scientifically. And he has a lot of detractors, granted, because he's part of this group. And we know all the drama that surrounds this group. that is not important for this video. What I want to say is that imagine you're Dr. Nolan, you're getting like hundreds and hundreds of emails and DMs daily. The dude has to like really identify the ones that are gonna be useful for his investigation. So even if it's a message from a famous person or a fellow scientist who is relatively well known, if it's something that doesn't move the conversation forward, I can totally see Dr. Nolan just dissing him. And that's why he's talking about this. Because he has no more patience for people who are not moving the conversation forward. And I think this is what's happening to Terrence Howard in his case. And that's where I want to mention Curt Jaimungal's Theories of Everything podcast. Because at first I saw that he released a tweet where, right after the Terrence Howard podcast on Rogan, where he speaks, let's say he jokes like in a sarcastic manner. I responded to this tweet believing he was making fun of the case, but then I realized that he wasn't. All he was doing was talking as if he was one of these mainstream academia professors who have no time, apparently, for entertaining Terence Howard's claims. And that's where I accept that I made a mistake, because I thought he was being facetious and sarcastic against Howard. And that is not the case. I'm going to tell you why. Curt had an Lee Cronin, who's a professor and scientist and chemist, who wanted to talk about Terence Howard's claims and refute them because he doesn't agree with them. And Curt Jaimungal has been trying to get Howard on his podcast to talk about this. The mere fact that, given that Curt Jaimungal has a background in physics and mathematics, the mere fact that he wants to entertain the idea of giving Terence Howard a stage where he can talk about these ideas and refute them, if possible, in a respectful manner, because Curt Jaimungal has never been disrespectful. He's always very educated and very well spoken, so that would be a great place for Terence Howard to discuss these ideas. And I didn't get a feeling from Terence that he wouldn't embrace being wrong in any of what he claimed on Rogan. So if Curt Jaimungal, for some reason, makes Terence Howard reconsider some of his ideas, I think that's a step forward too. And I think people should be open to that, just like Curt. You know, just like Joe Rogan had the guts to hear what Terence Howard has to say and come up with the idea that he needed to be on the biggest podcast on the planet. I think that's how we move these conversations forward. Not by saying someone is a con artist or, using ad hominems. That's not it. So I'm going to be very interested to see if Curt gets to interview Terence. I'm pretty sure he will get a chance to do it because Curt is very well connected. And I want people to keep thinking about this, because what Dr. Nolan said is very, very important, especially for the UFO topic. We get a lot of information on a daily basis, especially people like us, like content creators. We get DMs and about experiences, about, but there needs to be a proper system that will help us decide whether this story or the testimony is worth putting on YouTube or on video. But we must always remain open to hearing all the cases that are presented to us in every little detail, so we can come up with a proper explanation of the issue. And that's what I want. I don't know if Terrence is right. All I know is that Dr. Nolan is right. We need to hear people who have new ideas, and we need to stop uh, putting up a wall between these new ideas and the old ones. If we want humanity to evolve and move to the next stage in our evolution, this synergy needs to happen. New ideas need to replace all of the old ideas. I'm sorry, but that's how it works. I know Galileo Galilei wasn't, people weren't big fans of him when he was alive. And with the revolutionary ideas that he was proposing, I get why he was being persecuted so much. And we can't have that in the 21st century, guys. I mean, we're supposed to be one of the most advanced civilizations in modern history. And we treat new information like this? We're better than this. That's it for my video today. I want to thank everybody who's been supporting the channel, the comments, all the great interactions that we've had. I'm going to ask you, if you find value on this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe. It really helps the channel move forward, and I'm trying to get it as soon as possible to 2,000 subscribers. We're close. I think we can get there soon, and just keep moving forward. With that, I will leave you until next time. Goodbye.